Have you ever heard of a court that's been running for over 1,000 years, where regular folks get to be jurors, and they deal with everything from runaway pigs to dodgy bread? It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, but it's real, and it's called the Court Leet. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most ancient and fascinating legal traditions still alive in England. So, what exactly is a court leet? Imagine stepping back in time to the Anglo-Saxon era. Long before we had modern police forces or town councils, local communities needed a way to manage their own affairs. The court leet was the answer. It's a manorial court, which means it was originally held by the lord of the manor. Its primary job was to keep the peace and manage the day-to-day life of the community. Think of it as a combination of a local council, a magistrate's court, and a neighborhood watch, all rolled into one. The name itself is a bit of a mystery. Court is obvious, but leet? Some historians think it comes from an Old English word meaning district or jurisdiction. Others suggest it might have Norse roots. Whatever its origin, the name stuck, and these courts became a cornerstone of medieval English life. Now, let's talk about who was involved. The court was presided over by the Lord Steward, who acted as the judge. But the real power lay with the jury. This wasn't a jury like you see in a criminal trial today. The court leet jury was made up of local tenants, the freemen of the manor. They were the eyes and ears of the community. They knew who was causing trouble, whose fences were broken, and who was watering down their ale. These jurors would present offenders to the court. This meant they would formally accuse someone of a minor crime or a breach of local bylaws. The offences they dealt with were incredibly varied and give us a wonderful glimpse into medieval life. You might be fined for letting your pigs roam free and damage your neighbor's garden, for overgrazing your cattle on the common land, or for diverting a stream. One of the most important roles of the court leet was regulating trade. They appointed special officers to ensure fairness in the marketplace. You had the ale cunner or altuster, whose job was to check the quality and price of ale. If a brewer was caught selling weak or sour beer, they'd be in big trouble. Then there was the bread weigher, who made sure loaves of bread were the correct weight. Bakers who sold underweight loaves faced hefty fines. These roles were vital for ensuring that ordinary people weren't cheated. The court also appointed other officials. The most famous is probably the constable, who was the forerunner of the modern police officer. The constable was responsible for keeping the peace, arresting wrongdoers, and bringing them before the court. There were also haywoods, who managed the common fields and impounded stray animals, and scavengers, who were responsible for keeping the streets clean. Yes, even in the Middle Ages, they had people in charge of sanitation. So, what kind of punishments could the court leet hand out? They couldn't sentence someone to death or prison. Their power was limited to imposing fines. These fines were usually small amounts of money, but they were a significant deterrent. The goal wasn't just to punish, but to maintain order and encourage good neighborly behavior. It was all about community self-regulation. As centuries passed, the world changed. Central government grew stronger, and new systems of justice and local administration were created. County courts, magistrates, and eventually modern local councils took over most of the functions of the court leet. By the 19th and 20th centuries, most of these ancient courts had faded away, becoming little more than historical relics. It seemed like the court leet was destined for the history books. But here's where the story gets really interesting. They didn't all disappear. A handful of courts leet across England have survived, and they are still active today. Places like Alchester in Warwickshire, Henley in Arden, and the town of Warwick still hold their annual courts. Of course, their powers are now mostly ceremonial. but they play a vital role in preserving local traditions and fostering a sense of community identity. Today, attending a Court Leet ceremony is like watching living history. The officials, often dressed in traditional robes, are sworn in. The jury is empaneled, and they might still present nuisances to the court. Although these days it's more likely to be about an overgrown hedge than a runaway pig. The aisle tester might ceremonially test a pint from a local pub, and the town crier, another historic officer appointed by the court, will make proclamations. These modern Court Leet are a powerful link to the past. They remind us of a time when justice was local, personal, and deeply embedded in the community. The jurors weren't legal experts. They were ordinary people who understood the rhythms of daily life in their town or village. They knew that a blocked ditch could flood a field, that bad ale could make people sick, and that a peaceful community depended on everyone playing by the rules. The survival of the Court Leet is a testament to the enduring power of tradition. In our fast-paced, globalized world, these ancient courts offer a moment of connection to our local heritage. They celebrate the idea that a community can, and should, have a say in its own affairs. While they no longer hold legal power, they hold something just as important: the memory of 1,000 years of English history and the spirit of community sensitiveness. So, the next time you're in a historic English town, ask around. You might just discover that a Court Leet is still in session, carrying on a tradition that dates back to before the Norman conquest. It's a fascinating, quirky, and utterly unique piece of legal history that's still very much alive. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time to explore the incredible world of the Court Leet. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into hidden history. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been to a Court Leet ceremony, or if you know of one in your area. See you next time.